Hello, and welcome to episode 23 of Off the Roll. I'm your host, Troy Hirschman, and today we have our guest is Jason Eckerle. Jason is currently the research lab coordinator for the Strong Lab at Wright Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio for United States Air Force. He does research on Air Force personnel regarding exercise science and exercise physiology. We're going to learn a little bit about what he does with that today, as well as his story from his upbringing in Jasper, Indiana to Vincennes University, and then on to Ball State University and other places in between. And then we're going to learn a little bit about what he does on his side gig as a medical observer spotter for the NCAA and NFL football. So it's a really good podcast. We had a great conversation. In fact, the conversation that we had before and after the podcast could have been a podcast itself. So I think you'll really enjoy listening to Jason and his story. So let's go off the roll with Jason Eckerle. Hello and welcome to Off the Roll. I'm your host, Troy Hirschman. Today's podcast, we're here with a very special guest, Jason Eckerle, who is the research coordinator for the Strong Lab at Wright Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. And Jason's going to talk to us about what his athlete training journey was and go from there. So welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Thanks, Troy. Excited to be here.
So like we've started out all the podcasts, kind of tell me your story, where you're from. Obviously a native Hoosier, but where you're from, where you got started at, and then we'll just kind of talk about your journey from that standpoint.
Yeah, I grew up in a sports crazed town, Jasper, Indiana, down in southern Indiana. Like a lot of people, college or high school athletics was a big deal in my high school. I wasn't exactly the athlete that the rest of the people were around me. So I actually got started my freshman year as a football student manager. And there was a senior working with the varsity football team who had gone to a camp and learned how to tape ankles and things like that. And the head football coach put him in charge of finding his replacement. And he just walked out to the freshman field and said, "Hey, you want to learn how to tape ankles?" And I was like, "Sure." So that's kind of how it started. They sent me to a Cramer camp. And then
where was your Cramer camp at?
My Cramer camp was at IU in Bloomington. So summer after my freshman year,
cool.
I went to IU and learned how to tape and really fell in love with that part of sports medicine, the being able to kind of create and use tape and do things like that.
Who was some of your instructors at the Cramer camp?
I have no idea. That was back in like 94-ish. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah,
who any of the people were there at that
Cramer camps. I went to a Cramer camp too, or actually went to two of them. I know we're going to get sidetracked here with this, but it seems like that is a forgotten. I mean, they've disappeared. Cramer camps have disappeared, but and obviously with the changes in educational stuff, but somebody asked me the other day, there was a camp out there. Northern Illinois is the only one that I really know about right now, but with the changes in educational requirements and whatnot, they've kind of disappeared. But there was so much to learn there if you were young, like you were and like I was, you felt kind of special because you were learning something that nobody else was at your school, and you had some knowledge that nobody else had, whether you knew it or not. You just kind of like took that knowledge and built on it while you were there. So yeah, I always thought it was just really cool that they would have a camp for that. So
yeah, no, for sure. And it was also for me, coming from Jasper, small town, I had really never been to a big city, right? Bloomington was huge to me. So getting dropped off by my parents at 14 and see you in 4 days or whatever was an eye-opening experience for me too, being a naive 14-year-old. So just being able to grow and experience like that part of it what was huge for me in terms of just meeting different people from different areas who had similar interests and likes, and how they were impacting their teams at their schools versus how I could try to work my way into doing more at Jasper was big. for me from that standpoint. And then I actually went to another one. I went to an advanced camp with Al Green at the University of Kentucky between my junior and senior years. And that's where I think it actually hit me that this is something that I really think I want to do, and became a little bit more passionate about it just because I was older, a little bit more mature, and got to take some of those higher level classes where you really get into some of the medicine piece of it, and caring for people and, and having an impact. And that really hit home with me when I went to that Kentucky camp.
Yeah. So you're about 10 years apart from when I went to camp, and Al and Sue were instructors at my Eastern Kentucky camp in 1983. And I don't know if they were together then or not, but they were always together physically. I mean, they were, they would be around each other.
Yeah.
So they probably were, but yeah, it was kind of interesting that at that time, again, like you, I was probably 14 and I didn't know any better. That one person that saved me was Jim Dickerson, because he basically made sure I didn't get taped to a chair and in my underwear out in the hallway. Because there was lots of shenanigans going on at that first camp I went to at Eastern Kentucky, and he promised my parents that nothing would happen to me, and it didn't. And I'm thankful to this day because I had a positive experience, which led me, just like you, down a pathway of a career. So yeah.
And then from there, I went to Vincennes University, JUCO, not too far from Jasper. I was still kind of scared to go to a big city or far away from home. And Vincennes actually offered me the opportunity to practice and basically continue what I was doing right away the first semester in the program, which, the other programs you had to sit out and observe and do things like that. And I didn't really want to stop. I wanted to keep kind of doing what I was doing and keep, having an impact. And Vincennes allowed me that opportunity pretty much right from the get-go, which was awesome. I will say after about 1 year at Vincennes, I was ready to go to a bigger school, a bigger place. But they really, Mark Goodrich and Robert Cullen did a great job of allowing us to have responsibilities that I don't think I would have gotten if I would have went to a 4-year school right away. So that allowed me to, grow and be comfortable with making decisions and talking to adult coaches and, dealing with athletes and trying to learn some of that professionalism that I don't think I would have got had I gone to a 4-year school right away, which was awesome.
So where did you work at Vincennes?
What sports?
Yeah.
So I got put out at Vincennes Lincoln High School pretty much right away, which is our rival from Jasper, which was an interesting mix. There's a little bit of some work had to be done to kind of build some relationships so those guys could trust me, especially the week that we played Jasper. So
was Coach Wyman still coaching back then?
I don't remember who the coach was. I don't think so. It was a younger guy.
Yeah.
At that point in time. And then I actually got men's basketball as well. And got to work with them my senior year, and then was out at North Knox High School as well, working there, and then obviously covering some training room hours there as well. So good experience overall. Awesome. Obviously Vincennes at that time was set up to just feed kids into Indiana State's program. I'm kind of biased. I feel like every class that I graduated with, whether it was at Vincennes or Ball State, were top-notch, high-level athletic trainers, and having to compete for those slots and things like that. And Indiana State is kind of where everyone from Jasper went. It's like Du Bois County of a little bit further north, and kind of wanted to kind of set my own, kind of path. And that's when Ball State kind of came on the scene for me. Didn't really know anything about Ball State, didn't know how far it was from Jasper or Vincennes for that matter. Had looked at Evansville too and liked what I saw there, but didn't know how much that was going to cost, if I was going to be able to afford that. And then when I started talking about Ball State, Mark Goodrich had told me that you had gone there and had a good experience. So me and another individual from Vincennes named Jeremy Payne took a little trip up to Muncie, Indiana, met with Dr. Widener, and we may have even met with Neil while we were up there, and decided that the two of us were actually going to go kind of try to start a new connection up there for Vincennes and head to Ball State. So first semester there at Ball State, we had to sit out and do our observation hours, but which was fine. It helped us kind of adapt. I majored in physical education for that first semester, and then applied to get in the program at that mid-year point. And I think there were only 4 slots available, and I feel bad for all those people that were trying for the second time, third time to get in the program. And then Jeremy and I walk in and basically have resumes better than some of the first year students at that point, and stole those slots from them. But yeah, Jeremy and I were pretty much joined at the hip. I feel like everybody knew Jeremy and Jason, but they didn't know which one of us was Jeremy and which one of us was Jason. And if you know Jeremy, we look nothing alike. So
yeah.
So we settled in at Ball State, and we actually lived together the first year there, and then continued on with our experiences at Ball State.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is, I know that for me, I had to learn how to temper myself a little bit when I was working sports my first year at Ball State, because of the experiences that I had at Vincennes, and the autonomy, it used they weren't used to that. They didn't know what to do with that at that time, and I remember that Rex put me with softball with a junior level student or something, and she struggled to do evaluations. And here Mark had just rammed it down our throats about the 10 steps of evaluation, which to this day I still use. And I'm so thankful for that, because it does give you a process to work through. Obviously I'm a little bit quicker about it than what I used to be, but I felt really comfortable doing those things. And then I would see her struggle, and I would have to bite my tongue or bite my lip or whatever, because I kind of knew what was going on, and she was still struggling with it. And eventually it worked its way in to do that. But yeah, we definitely, the skill set and the experience that Mark, for me, Mark, and then Mark and Robert for you and Jeremy, it was special. And I sometimes I look back on that and I go, I wish I would have paid more attention about this. But again, you're in your first couple of years of college, you got other stuff going on, you're still trying to figure out things. But it still was something that was unequaled in the aspect of, like what you just talked about. If you came into Ball State, you're going to do observation for a semester, and then you're going to try to get in the program, and then you're taking classes to do all that stuff. You were already equipped with evaluation classes and modality classes and all that stuff from Vincennes, that you really pretty much could jump right in and do stuff right from the get-go to do that. And then you got thrown in, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but in your time at Ball State, that's when they kind of talked about direct supervision, and you're probably like going, okay, do I really need this? But it was part of the program at that point in time. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was definitely the skill set and the base from Vincennes that helped me kind of get into Ball State and be pretty successful. I remember knowing it was a little different though when I walked out to football practice the first time, and I don't remember if it was Casey Hackman or John Flan, one of those guys. Somebody had worked with the Patriots, right? And they had their Patriots fanny pack on. I'm like, whoa, wait, like this is a different level than where I was at before, right? Which was good, because it helped me like not be that pain in the butt that thinks he knows everything, but also allowed me to realize what Ball State was going to potentially be able to offer me if I stuck with this, in terms of not just connections, but the quality of education that I was going to get that would potentially afford me opportunities to, work in those different types of levels of professional athletics, which was kind of my goal at Ball State, was to get to a point where I could work pro baseball. That was my lifelong goal and dream growing up in Jasper. Scott Rolen was a couple years ahead of me. And then the years that I was at Jasper, we went to state 3 of the 4 years and won twice. And that's back when it was single class. So baseball was huge in that community. And baseball was something that I loved and was going to try to find a way, if obviously I wasn't going to play, to make it to the big leagues. And Ball State obviously really quickly showed me that would be possible with some of the kids that had come before me and what they were doing at Ball State.
Yeah. I'm going to quickly go back and you're going to chuckle about this, but I want you to go back and tell me some of your instructors that you had at Vincennes as a physical education major? Because I
Oh,
guarantee
geez.
you that you and I had some of the similar instructors back then.
Cortez was the like
Yep.
strength training coach guy. Man, I can't remember. There was a husband and wife. They were awesome. They were more like parents to me, I feel like, than
Yeah.
anything else. I can't remember their names. But obviously we had Robert and
Was
Mark.
Was Bill Rump still there?
That's him, Bill Rump, and his wife taught too. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are the two that I'm talking about. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah.
They
Bill
were
Rump.
awesome.
Was Roy Inglis still there?
Yep. Roy was
Yeah.
in charge of the center, the complex, the athletic complex.
Yeah.
There. That's that center. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying to think who else. Who was the tennis coach? Ron Albers.
Ron Albers was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
He taught softball, I think. One of the softball classes I took, and then Jason. There was an assistant
Jason
basketball
Holmes.
coach. Holmes.
Jason,
Yeah. He
yeah.
was there as well.
He
I
was
took
he
a
was
course
the
from him.
one he was the one that I've never forgot this, that he was teaching our foundations of PE class, and he said, I want you guys to all understand, if you want to go into coaching at the high school level, there's going to be more uneducated people on a school board that's going to determine whether or not you're going to be employed. Then you're going to sit there and you're going to say, I've got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree or whatever, and I coach basketball, and those uneducated people are going to decide whether you're going to work or not. Are you prepared to do that? And he was dead serious. And now that I'm kind of an adult and see how that works, I'm like, he was absolutely right in the aspect of
100%.
Yeah, I mean, and so that group was so cool, and just probably like you. I mean, I was a freshman who went behind the ears, small town, grew up on a farm, had no idea what college was going to be like, and Mark was very instrumental in helping me understand a little bit of that. But that group in that PE office really did kind of take you under their wings. If you showed an interest in a work ethic, they really took care of you and nurtured you to be prepared to go to college, and that's why it always made it really special for me. But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so Ball State, you're at Ball State.
Yep.
You and Jeremy get in, and we'll just maybe cut that off there. I don't know if you and Jeremy, but who were some of the people that you were students with at Ball State?
So
I think our
I think our class, I don't know how many classes had the number of people go be GAs at the D1 level, but I think we have to be like high up there with that group. Obviously Tim Lentych, who he and I kind of motivated me, and we kind of followed similar career paths for a little bit there. Was there, and he went to Tennessee and worked swimming and diving there. Sara McGriff ended up going to Georgia, worked swimming and diving there as well. Jason Hines was in there. Jared Holloway went to UAB to do his graduate assistantship. Casey Comer, who I think she was a field hockey player, I think, and then came into athletic training. Christy Stone, I think, was in my class. Heather Smoot. Who else? A guy named Steve. I don't remember him. Blair Unruh went to Central Michigan as well. So those were the people that were kind of in my group, and my group was kind of different, right? Because the four, I don't even remember who the four of us were, other than me and Jeremy, that came in mid-semester. But you kind of were stuck with the group coming in, the following year, and then also some of those people coming in before. But ahead of us was like Jeff Beer, Jen Beer, Brooke, Sarah Zigriff, Chester, obviously Kuhn, Travis Dillon, Steve Zook, Chris Vernon. Like that whole group were the ones above us that were kind of showing us the ropes as we went through. So so a good group of people, obviously, who went on, and most of them may still be working in athletic training or close to it.
Close. I mean, for the most part, if you name, a lot of people still are in that group that you're talking about.
So good group for sure. Made it fun, made it competitive, which I think that's what kind of drove me to get better, was competing. And academically, that's a pretty good group to compete against. For approval from staff members, or grades with Teresa or Vinny, all that. So very solid class, and happy that I was able to work and get to know a lot of those people.
Yeah, because Teresa Mackey and Vinny, I can't think of Vinny's last name right.
Natoli.
Natoli, yes. I mean, they were teaching a lot of your classes at that time, and then Dr. Widener was kind of filling
Yep.
in where, I mean, probably a modalities class or something like that.
Yeah, he taught the
correct?
modalities class for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
What what are some of the things that, I mean, that, or I guess what were the assignments, your clinical assignments that you had then?
I know I had women's gymnastics was probably one of my first, if not my first, with Erica Gerard and Erica Esterby.
Mm-hmm.
She was the GA working there. She was awesome. There's a lot of time with women's gymnastics that you're just kind of sitting there watching, and she was awesome at helping us go through our practical stuff, while we were sitting there, and really got to know her really well. Over the course of my time at Ball State. I had Muncie Central High School, Henry County Sports Medicine one summer, and then I did 2 stints with football. I did my internship with the Atlanta Braves in the spring one year, and when I came back, I did football with them, and then had football the following fall as well. And then finished up with men's volleyball the year we went to the national tournament. So fortunate enough to have some really, really good experiences with some really, really good teams and coaches that were accepting and, allowed me to be a part of it.
Yeah. Did Don Shondell know your name?
No, I don't think he was, he wasn't the
Joel.
coach. Joel was the coach. Yeah.
Joel
I
was
don't
the coach.
remember
Yeah.
Shondell being around much.
Joel would have known your name. Yeah.
Yeah, Joel was awesome. We went out to BYU for a tournament, and Joel actually allowed me to go with the staff. BYU's coach was a ski instructor, and so the coaching staff and myself and one of the graduate assistant managers or coaches went out to the slopes, and Joel let me go with him and learned how to ski and did all this stuff out at BYU.
That's
which
awesome.
was really cool. Yeah, so he was really good to me and really kind of understood what was going on. And I remember we were playing Ohio State at Ohio State. Obviously, I traveled by myself. We didn't have anyone with us, and our middle got hurt, twisted his ankle. I had to take him back to the training room, make a decision, and put him back in. And Joel, never really questioned anything or speed of my decisions or speed to get him back in. It was do what you need to do and let me know when he's ready. So as a young athletic trainer, that was awesome to kind of have that experience where a coach, to know that coaches can be like that, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah. There's been I think that group is we're always at the end of the day, we're always really supportive of the student athletic trainers and stuff, and connected with them and stuff. Even Don, if he didn't know your name, he's still connected with you a little bit on that. Yeah. It's just the story I tell is that he called me Todd or Toby the whole season I worked with him. And then my second day back at Ball State in 2007, he comes in and goes, Troy, and I went, what the heck? You didn't know my name the entire time I was a student with you. Now you're saying me? Anyway, I don't know, but it was it was just funny, to do that. So you went on this pathway of professional baseball. Kind of how did that get started, and then how long did you kind of pursue that before you kind of made a decision to step away from that?
Yeah, unlike Tim, who I found out through this podcast had all kinds of connections, up in his neck of the woods to get his internships and know people to get into baseball. I didn't have that. So I actually started while I was in college at Ball State as the athletic trainer for an independent baseball team down in Du Bois County, the Du Bois County Dragons of the Frontier League. So I started out as a field maintenance crew guy one year, and then was the game day operations guy another year, and then going into my senior year, I actually was the clubhouse guy, traveling secretary, and athletic trainer for that team. So basically just trying to build my baseball resume. And then one day, we were in Worthen Arena, and there was a flyer on the wall for a Braves internship, and I took it and filled out a resume and sent it down to them. And they hired 4 that year to come in there. And I was the only one that was a junior. And the other 3 were seniors at internship programs. So I was the only curriculum kid, and I was a junior, and was fortunate enough to get selected for that. So I went down and worked spring training with the Braves minor league system down in Disney Wide World of Sports. At that point, it's ESPN Wide World of Sports now. But again, another awesome experience, able to build that resume. Learned a lot from the athletic trainers there in terms of like what would be required to work in pro baseball. And, a lot of guys had master's degrees, and you could make more money if you had that coming in. And some would start out with bachelor's degrees. So I decided master's was the route I was going to take. Got offered swimming and diving graduate assistantship at the University of South Carolina, and went down there to work swimming and diving, thinking that, it was a heavy upper extremity shoulder type experience. Knew it was going to be a little bit of a grind, but obviously took it for that reason, to try to hone in on my shoulder evaluations and rehab skills, and then hopefully take that to baseball after that. Was able to, stay connected. They had a minor league team in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina down there. So the year I was down at the University of South Carolina, I was able to still stay connected with those athletic trainers that I worked with in the minor league system. And then we had a minor league team in Columbia too, which the Braves team would come through twice a year as well. And I got to hang out and still kind of keep that connection. Tim and Sara were obviously working swimming and diving where they were too. And I remember we're at the SEC swimming and diving meet, and Tim and Sara and I are, grabbing a quick bite to eat and just cutting it up. And I don't know who the guy was working with Arkansas, but he comes over and he's like, you guys are you guys at the same meets every weekend or what? Like, I was like, no, we all graduated together and went to school together from Ball State. He's like, man, I thought I was just going to the wrong meets. Like, you guys are tight and close. And, he felt left out. But that was a really cool experience to be able to, reconnect with them. I won't tell the whole story, but Tim kind of left me hanging dry when Tennessee came to South Carolina to swim. We may have had a couple beverages and did not know that the bars in South Carolina did not close. And when we came out, it was almost time for me to go back to the pool to set up for morning swim. And when Tennessee showed up, somehow their athletic trainer was sick and didn't make it. So I had to treat his athletes for him. He did make it back for the meet later on in the day, but so another good little story with Tim.
No, that's, you know what? I mean, honestly, I believe that cost me a job at Kent State. So in 1992, we hosted the MAC track championships, and I asked Rex, I said, hey, you guys are all getting together, because they used to have the MAC meetings with the track championships. And so can I send out a letter and have a gathering for the students that are covering track? He's like, yeah, it's a great idea. So we send it, at the bottom of his letter, I say, hey, we're going to have a party at my house on Rex Street, we'll come pick you up. And we had a couple kegs and we had a great time. We were doing ankle taping stands rather than keg stands, doing that. But the problem was, the next day, none of the students could, like the Bowling Green Kent and the Kent State students had a great time, but they could not work the track meet the next day. And so Fosdick, and I forget who might have been Bill Jones, or I forget who, Mike Massaro or somebody at Bowling Green, had to work the track meet. And so Fosdick was mad. He was pissed. And so in 1998, I applied for the assistant athletic trainer job at Kent State, and I had a phone interview with John. And he goes, when did you graduate from Ball State? And I go, 1992. And he went, oh. And I think he made the connection that I was the guy that threw the party, they ended up hiring he was Steve Nordwall is who they hired over me. Yeah. And
well, maybe you're the reason I didn't get the graduate assistantship at Kent State either.
That's right. It could have been. Yeah. I don't know. John's never confirmed that, and I'm not sure I would ask him that, because who knows what that might dig up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that again, there you go. I mean, so you had to take care of Tennessee and your team then, correct?
In the morning, morning. Yeah. While Tim slept in the hotel room in his nice
there's a couple. Isn't there a couple of Yankees tickets that might be worth that for that?
Yeah, it should be. It should be for sure. Yeah.
So you're kind of staying connected with that and stuff, and then
and
you end up in South Carolina. What happens? What happens kind of in between there?
So Steve Zook was actually down at South Carolina too. He went down there the year before me, and then obviously Jen Harrod had connections down there for us with that. but the assistant football athletic trainer left to go take over at Furman right in the middle of two-a-days. So I ended up getting to cover football at South Carolina and swimming and diving. And basically because Steve and I had worked so close, or had both worked at Ball State, we just ran two-a-days and practices like we did at Ball State. The communication was there. We kind of just ran it the same way we did when each of us had worked at Ball State. So while I was at South Carolina, I had an aunt and an uncle both get diagnosed with cancer at the same time. And I was like, it's time to be closer to home and closer to family. So Rod Walters, who I'm still really close with and do some stuff with on the side now, was nice enough to say, hey, I'll help you whatever way you need. We can leave this open if you ever want to come back. There's always a space for you. Completely understood. And I ended up started looking for graduate assistantships back closer to home. And in that process, found a baseball position open at Miami. They were adding athletic trainers to their staff at that time. They were trying to grow the staff, and baseball was one of the positions that was available.
Okay.
And I thought, man, this is perfect. I can go to school or go work full time, get my master's degree there, and then go work pro baseball. So that was kind of the thought process in taking the job at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, to work baseball and kind of continue along that path. While working baseball, I was introduced to my wife through a baseball player's mom on a blind date, and never made it back out of Oxford. So we obviously gave up that dream to go work pro baseball after I got married, and we decided to have kids. And also was fortunate enough. Timing was everything for me, just being in the right place at the right time and having developed the relationships needed to basically make things work for me. Doing the master's program while working full time with baseball, I was getting to the point where I was going to have to start missing a ton of baseball practices and stuff. And at that time, our hockey athletic trainer got a job working pro hockey, and baseball was getting lights, which meant longer days, and rain delays no longer could be canceled due to darkness. So I decided to make the switch to men's ice hockey at that time, knowing nothing about ice hockey growing up in Southern Indiana, just to be able to potentially finish my degree and be around more for my wife and my kids whenever they were born. So took over ice hockey. They were ranked number 1 in the country when I went in. They had 2 Hobie Baker finalists preseason, which is basically hockey's version of the Heisman, and had no clue whatsoever what I was doing from a hockey standpoint. But again, I've always had great coaches. The baseball coaches at Miami, all the head coach and the assistant coaches all became D1 head coaches at some point in their career, and are still coaching. Same thing with ice hockey. Our ice hockey coaches was basically, the timing wasn't good for them to bring in a hockey guy, and he understood that I knew how to get people to the appropriate position and timing, and that was more important to him than the hockey piece. So he told me that he could work with me on the hockey and understanding hockey and help with like developing functional rehabs and things like that. If he could just make sure he could trust me to get his kids seen when they needed to be seen and so forth. So spent ton of time working hockey, loved every minute of it. Went to 2 Frozen Fours, were 8 seconds away from winning a national championship before that got taken away from us. But awesome time there. And then it got to the point where my son was getting older, my daughter was born, and I just wasn't around as much as I wanted to. Hockey had moved conferences, so we were on plane flights to North Dakota and Minnesota and Omaha, and just needed to be around more, and had kind of reached the top of where I could be at Miami in terms of the ladder of climbing. I was the assistant director of sports medicine at the time. Our director of sports medicine was a physician. So in terms of career growth, there wasn't really much more for me to accomplish there. And one of the individuals we had at Miami as a graduate assistant when I first started there had started working up at Wright Pat Air Force Base, doing some cognitive psychology stuff actually, and was getting ready to transition over to running this human performance lab, and said that they were going to hire a lab coordinator and wanted to know if I'd be interested. And that's when I really started to learn and think about the value that an athletic trainer can bring to the military setting. And it was a position that intrigued me because the potential pay was a lot greater than what I was getting at the Division I level, but it also afforded me a 40-hour a week, no weekend job to be with my family. And so I took it with the leap of faith that we had funding for 1 year, hoping, he was going to do his part to continue to grow, what he was wanting to do in the research lab. And then that I didn't screw it up, right? Just stay out of his way and see what happens. When we started, we had one squat rack and a treadmill. That was about 8 years ago, and now we have 9 squat racks, 4 treadmills, 1,500 square foot facility that we run a lot of the Air Force's research out of. And my background in athletic training allowed me to really connect with people of all different backgrounds. And the military is very diverse from that standpoint. And recruitment was an issue that they had initially in trying to get subjects to continue to come back. Our studies are longer. They're not just one-time visits. It's, they're training with us 10 to 12 weeks at a time. And you really need that retention in order to get some good results and some good data. So my background in athletic training and my background working D1 and professional athletics really helped to keep those people engaged, and kind of gave me a little bit of, I don't know if clout's the right word, but gave them some buy-in right away to what we were doing. And we started out with like 25 subjects in a group, and now we're maxed out at 60 a cohort right now. So it's been an interesting journey to say the least. Still able to stay involved with athletic training with some of the stuff I'm doing on the side as a PRN athletic trainer, which is awesome because then you just tell them to go see the real athletic trainer the next day, and you don't have to deal with the malingering athletes.
You're kind of like grandparents,
Yeah, exactly.
When you're done seeing them, you just go send them off back to the parents, right?
Yeah. Yep. And it's similar in the military world too, right? Like these people are coming to work out with us, an hour a day, and sometimes this is the only break they get from their stressful, career job,
right?
Whatever. Got to give a shout out to the Aero Evac Training Squadron. They're right down the hall from us, and a lot of our participants come from there. And they basically train all the nurses and med techs to perform medicine, in flight, and which can be a very stressful situation, right? Not only are they have to make life and death decisions in the air for people that are injured, and they're training the people to do that. So got to give that group a shout out because they've been fun, but it's definitely been a good group to have from a camaraderie standpoint. They work together all day, every day, and they kind of are like a team that you experience in college athletics. So they allow me the opportunity to give them a hard time, cut up, and all that, but then also get to know their families and and what their backgrounds are, and really have an impact on their day just by being a sounding board and giving them an outlet on the day.
Yeah, no, and I think that's interesting. That you, as an athlete trainer, you find you're maybe in a little different setting, but you still find your niche and what the strong points of what makes you a good athletic trainer is, and making personal connections and talking to people and not that you're like showing a fake interest in what they're doing. You have a general, you want to know what's going on with people, and that's something I've found that I've always done at the college level, but at the high school level, the story that I've been telling is that like when I got there my first week of football, we played a football game Friday night. I had a kid that had a pretty decent ankle sprain. And I said, I'm going to see you. I just went into college mode. I'm going to see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. We're going to treat this thing. We're going to come back at 2 o'clock. We're going to treat this thing. And he looks at me and goes, hey, Troy, I've got a pig show to go to tomorrow. I'm showing pigs tomorrow in somewhere, and I went, you know what? These people have other lives too. Yeah, it's okay. And I said, that's fine. Wear your brace, get some ice on it. He goes, I'll do all this stuff. You tell me what to do. I'll do it. And I'll see you on Monday, and good luck in your pig show. And so, I mean, but then I was, on Monday when I was treating him, I was engaging him about like what he showed and how long you've been at 4-H and all this other stuff and FFA and whatnot. I think that's the thing about it, is that sometimes when we're in the college level, we get so ingrained with the whole college mentality, kind of like what you talked about, like you're trying to figure out where people are going, referring, treatments, rehabs, all this stuff, and you're still talking to them and connecting with them, but you really don't know that much outside of where you're at in that deal. And sometimes being in a different setting allows you to do those things where you can connect with those folks to have a bigger world view, I guess you would say, of what's out there in real life and what's important to people, and how you can help them reach those goals in some way, shape, or form. So.
Yeah, and I think that for me, I learned pretty quickly going to school with the people I mentioned earlier that I wasn't the smartest person in the room, and I had to find another avenue to be successful, to go along with that. And I think being able to build and maintain meaningful relationships is key in healthcare in general. Maybe more so in athletic training, because you really need to have that trust and buy-in from your athletes and your coaches. And I was actually fortunate enough that, a hockey program I worked with at Miami, Coach Blasi was really big into that. And I learned so much from him in terms of that importance, to where he actually, would give me some, he would give me the okay to engage in those conversations, help drive the coaching points home as well, right? If a kid was struggling in classes, I knew about it. I could talk to him in the training room in a non-threatening situation, find out information on both sides. I kind of felt like an in-between between the players and the coaching staff a lot of time. But I think that's what brought value to the program. That's what brought value to them winning. And he saw me as more than just, the person that was going to get the injured guy back. It was more of a relationship, building, maintaining, facilitating type of role that we have in athletic training. And I think athletic trainers lose sight of the value of that sometimes. And when you get out of those college settings, I understand my value, now that I'm outside, and what that's worth something. You have your degree, but there's an art to it as well. Not just the science, and having that, knowing that that's a value, and being able to promote yourself and promote that as a value to your organization, is what's allowed me to kind of stay where I've been now for the last 8 years.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the thing too, to try to emphasize on these younger, I shouldn't say younger, but younger athlete trainers in the profession, is that it isn't all about what treatment wise, or what from a evaluation standpoint. Your clinical skills are important, and they help build the trust that you're going to have with those people. But if you cannot connect with them, they're not going to trust you as a clinician or an instructor, or as somebody that they can go to. I had an experience yesterday where basically the mom is a middle school wrestler, and I'd had experiences with her older son in high school, and the mom was going to take him to a doctor, and he's like, no, I want to see Troy first, because we, even in the short amount of time, you've built relationships and talking with them and stuff like that. And it was just he just had acute bursitis on his serine bursitis on his knee, but it wasn't a big deal to me to look at that, or take 5 or 10 minutes to look at that and kind of reassure them that, hey, why don't you take care of this at home first, and then if you need to go see a doctor, you can do that. But I think those are the things that if you're so focused on just showing up and putting on ice bags and being at events and doing those things without developing relationships, then it's tough to provide that care that and I don't think it's as fulfilling for you as an athlete trainer or as a clinician to just do those things and show up. And I think that's the thing is I think sometimes, because, and I'm not knocking the education system now, but that is such a focus in what they're doing from a teaching standpoint, and their clinical experiences not being as long as they are, unless you do like an internship or something like that, that you don't get a chance to connect with those people. And that makes it difficult. And I wonder if that's one of the reasons why people are just not sticking around right now, because they're looking for something like that.
Yeah. And I think, it's not just the athletes too. I think every job I've got, I think, has been because of a relationship I've built with, a coworker or a coach, or, not even necessarily the athletes from that standpoint. So I think it's just a skill, no matter what your profession is, like being able to have those meaningful and develop those quality relationships, is is so important. I think technology has gotten in the way of that. From my standpoint, with phones and people being attached to those. And I know I fight that with my son and right now, and he hates it, and he doesn't have all the cool apps that everyone else has, but by golly, he can communicate with an adult at 14 years old. If you go up and talk to him, he's going to be able to shake your hand and look you in the eye and have a conversation, which right now he doesn't know the value of that. But as parents, we just hope that, down the road, that gives him an advantage that somebody else didn't have, because they didn't understand the importance of that.
Well, one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about with you too is that you kind of have this, other than the PRN thing, you have the side gig of being a medical observer, and kind of talk to me a little bit about what that entails. You don't have to get into specifics about situations, but maybe just give me an overview of what your day looks like when you're observing.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough, again, through relationships I've made, been able to apply and get a couple pretty cool jobs, and having this 40-hour week job has allowed me to do a lot of stuff, athletic training wise on the outside. I do medical observing for the Mid-American Conference football games, primarily ones at Miami University in Oxford. It's a paid position through the Mid-American Conference. They pay you a stipend basically per game. And then also for the last 7 years, I've been working down in Cincinnati as an ATC spotter for the NFL, hired directly by the NFL, paid an hourly salary for that one to work and cover those games. And the last, I think maybe the last 4 or 5 years, I've been the lead spotter for that program down in Cincy. But basically what you do in both positions is you're just an extension of the medical staffs on both sides. So you're an extra set of eyes in the sky, as they like to say, and you're looking for anyone specifically with head or neck symptoms, injury mechanisms, and then any sort of symptoms that might follow after that. And then you have a direct line to the sidelines to talk to the medical staffs if a person's coming off the field and isn't being seen, or to stop the game if need be, to get that person off and get them help, to make sure that we're not doing any extra harm for them. Both systems at the college and professional level, there's a video component to it. NFL is a lot more sophisticated than what we're using in the Mid-American Conference, but both of them have the opportunity for me to review video and look at multiple angles of a play to determine if there actually was head neck impact during those plays before I would necessarily rule that a player needs to be evaluated for a head or neck injury. That's kind of how the program started. What has happened, and I've noticed over the last 7 years, is the medical staffs really start to want that information. In the NFL, we send the video down to the sidelines. At college, the games that I work in college, a lot of times I'll just videotape it with my phone and then text it down to them so that they can see that injury video, because being able to see the video happen can really help with the diagnosis going forward. And sometimes what a player thinks happens is not what actually happens. So the history is a little off in your evaluation. But if you have the video to show that, then obviously that's a huge key piece in the diagnosis of a head and neck injury, or any injury for that matter. So the acceptance of it over the last 7 years has been unbelievable. And how they value, what is going on up in the booth on both sides of the field. And it's been, a pretty rewarding experience just to know that you get to develop some relationships with those athletic trainers and maintain those relationships if they're people that I've worked with in the past. And really feel like you're helping them make their lives a little bit easier. Because in the end of the day, that's what I want. I want to make their lives a little bit easier. And if I see something on the sidelines, when you're on the field, you can't see anything, especially during a football game. So having them be able to trust us up in the booth to kind of identify, somebody that may need to be seen, and provide them the video to help with that diagnosis, and get them the care they need quicker than they might otherwise have has been pretty rewarding.
Walk me through a little bit of, like, if you see something, kind of a step by step, if you can, a step by step kind of situation. Like, if you see something, do you review it for a little bit and then let somebody know that you might want to take a look at somebody? I mean, is there a time, is there kind of a time limitation? Like you've got so many minutes, obviously, because obviously during a game, as any other game that we've always seen, I mean, the game moves on. And is there something, I mean, do you try to do, like, it's probably impossible to do between plays, but do you try to do something where you catch something like, hey, this person's out there, or this person's coming off, I've looked at this video, this looks a little suspect? I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to ask here, but I think the
Yeah,
thing
no,
is,
I got you. I got you. Yeah. A lot of times the speed of the game will dictate that. And the hurry up offenses, Miami ran some hurry up stuff this year, and it drove me
yeah,
nuts because I barely had time to, react or see anything. So in those situations, if you don't see it live, you can't really do much. But you have to you have to separate yourself from the game and realize what you're there for. You're there for the safety and protection of the players. And that's the bottom line. So I'm always going to err on the side of caution. If I see something that I think, needs to be looked at, I'm going to go ahead and stop the game and make sure that person's seen. Then, it's different in both settings. The college game, I'm the only one up there in the booth. In the professional NFL, there's 2 of us athletic trainer spotters, and then we also have a unaffiliated neuro consultant, and then 2 IVRS techs, which are injury video review observers, and they kind of run the video. So you got a lot more eyes up there. So there's a lot of times where if something's going on in an NFL game, I can tell someone else to look at the field, to take the field, and then I can go to my monitor. But usually I usually set it to a 3 or 5 second delay. So between plays, I'll watch it live. I'll watch it again, on delay, and then go back to the field if I didn't see anything. If I do see something, then I might zoom in or change angles or something like that as quick as I can to make a decision. And if we miss something and we think that a play early or something might have happened, it's not like if the next play happens, you can't stop it, right? So even if we see something late, we're going to stop it and make sure that player gets seen. And it's your eyes kind of get trained after you do it for so long in terms of like the areas that you're focusing on, just from watching and observing, and the history of knowing when things are occurring. You kind of get your own thought process that you go through. My process may be totally different than the other ATC spotter that's working with me at the NFL, or any other medical observer that's working in the MAC. But you kind of get your process down, and you just stick with it. And it's funny because you get tunnel vision, and you look up and it's halftime and you have no idea what the score is, because all you've been doing is just looking. You're not even watching the ball or scores or first downs. You're literally just watching heads. To see what's going on.
Does it affect your ability just to try to relax and enjoy watching a football game?
Yeah, I can't watch football the way I used to watch football. It's getting a little easier. NFL is really hard for me to watch for a lot of reasons, but if I'm at a game live, it's way easier than watching it on a TV, because in the booth you're watching it on the monitor for the most part too, so you kind of have that same sort of deal. And you find yourself wanting to rewind to see what happened and what's going on. But yeah, so it's a little harder to watch games now, because you just mentally get into that flow of your process and how you do it on a game day. So I usually try to watch the teams that are going to play the next week, the week before, and more so just looking for tendencies of players. There's a former quarterback who I won't name, who may or may not have gone to a college that I've worked at, who was notorious for just being slow to get up, right? And that's one of the criteria. So if that's a habit and a pattern of the player, you got to make sure you know who those guys are, so that you can then have that understanding. Also, having injury reports and kind of understanding other reasons why guys might be slow to get up, right? Whether it's returning from an ankle sprain or whatever, just having some of that information can help you make a decision a little quicker in the moment.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, I mean, it's definitely there for the safety of the players, but one of the things that I think we've always hung our hats on is the fact that if you're down on the field and those kids, you see them day in and day out and stuff, and what they do and how they do and stuff like that, and then has that ever been conflicting with with a medical observer with that staff if they, hey, we, like you said, but if you're preparing for that, if you're doing your homework on that and stuff, the best of your ability, then and the staffs know that, then they also trust you in the aspect of like, this is legit. Jason's letting us know because he knows, type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, you're right. We don't know their mannerisms or, a lot of the stuff that's going on, right? And I think that's where, having that rapport with the staffs you're working with, obviously Miami staff, their head athletic trainer, Paul Ebersol, and I worked together when I was at Miami, and, we have a really good rapport. Dr. Daly was my, he's the director of sports medicine in Miami, was my boss for, 12, 13 years as well. So that trust level is definitely there with them. And bottom line is I think the more that this program has been in place, the longer this program has been in place, that understanding of why we're there is, they get it. That may happen. There may be times where we are forced to call a medical timeout and it was something totally different, right? Like contact came out of his eye or something,
Yeah.
But I think, and in the moment they may be upset, and that's fine. At the end of the day, though, I had to make the decision based on what I saw, and I did that, and I have to stand by that and feel comfortable with it. And at the end of the day, I think they would appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Believe me, I mean that me going back to football this year, just even high school football, which is like a snail compared to what you're trying to watch. It was still hard. It was trying to place yourself somewhere that you could see what's going on, but there's still guys coming off the field that there was something wrong, or I'd turn to look on the sidelines behind the benches and they're back there like they don't know where they're at, or they're rubbing their knee, or they're, stuff like that. I mean, you're trying to keep one eye on the field and one eye on the bench to see what's going on. And it's just you. And, or maybe even if you're fortunate, you're watching the other, like there were some schools that didn't have athlete trainers that came. And so you're looking at both sides. And I think that's the thing where, I gained a whole new respect for even just at a high school game, which moves a ton slower than college or professional football, on how hard that is to try to do that. And I think that
hockey's the opposite. If you go work a high school hockey game, you have all the time in the world to see. I remember the first time I worked a high school hockey game after working college hockey with guys who, go on to play in the NHL. The speed of the college and pro game compared to a high school game, I'm like, man, I can see everything on this bench forever. Like it's the exact opposite. So if you want to feel better, go work a hockey game, and you'll feel like you can see it all.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing is that I think it's even, I have a whole new respect for these secondary athletic trainers that are trying to do that job the very best they can and trying to see everything, and it's still impossible to do that, and you just do the best you can. But to have another layer of protection for these collegiate professional athletes it's been important to make that emphasis on player safety for that. And will we see it in other things? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, no, and I think Dr. Alan Seals, the guy in charge of, player safety, health and safety for the NFL, has done a great job in promoting that and being transparent with everything that's going on in the NFL, and has kind of been a leader in the world from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Player health and safety as things move forward. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see, some of the stuff trickle down if possible for that. Like if I'm working or if I'm at a high school game now for my son, like I have the athletic trainer's phone number that works at the school. Like there's definitely been times where I'm like, hey man, go check out so-and-so. He just came off like this. And he appreciates it, right? Because like you said, you can't see everything from where you are down on the field, no matter what the sport is. Or you're turning your back and you're filling a water bottle at a basketball game and a substitution's made and the kid on the bench is, grabbing his ankle or his back and you have no clue.
Yeah. Or you're even looking at somebody. I mean, how many times has that happened?
Somebody else. Yeah.
You're looking at somebody else, your back turned, and you're yelling your name and you're like, what's going on? Or somebody comes off, or, and I mean, it's just what it is. But
Yeah.
if somebody else is watching that, or somebody else has like a video on their phone, or, we're lucky. I'm lucky because our football program has it's crazy, but they bought this video system this year because we had a new coach come in, that their guys are watching film on the sidelines of like the last series. A high school, a 2A high school has this system. They have a tent and they have this big screen TV. And so this year there was a couple times that things happened. I asked them, like, can I go back and look at this real quick and to see what happened? Like, they could run it back for me, or they've got tablets. I mean, it's high school football.
Yeah.
They have that technology now and they utilize it for that. And our football coach was at Pike and Zionsville. So, 5A, 6A schools that had all that technology. And when he came down to us, he's like, yeah, this is what I want, and had the money to spend on it. And they did it. So I've even used that a little bit this year to do that. But it is nice to have somebody else kind of help you out. And that's really cool.
And that's it. I mean, that's essentially what we are. We're an extension of, we're just an extra set of eyes to help them in taking care of their players.
Yeah. So something else on your LinkedIn account. See, this is my research right here. LinkedIn. Medical director, athletic trainer of Zoom Multisport Racing.
So there's one of our athletic training students actually from Miami. I haven't done much with Zoom since COVID hit, but he's a chiropractor now in the Dayton area. He's actually a team chiropractor for Miami as well now. But he got involved in some of these multi-sport, meaning triathlon primarily is what I cover. But he is also like an assistant race director, and they were looking for people to help, cover events, and kind of roped me into helping out with that. And it was a way for me initially when I took this job to kind of keep my hands dirty and, have some evaluation type things pop up. And usually pre-COVID, I was covering maybe 3 races a year around the Cincinnati Dayton area for triathlons in that area. So kind of an outside the box use, but again, a relationship that I had with a former student who was able to, rope me in and make a little side money. And they're usually just 1-day events. You usually have to get there pretty early in the morning, and then they're over by early afternoon. But
which is kind of your MO right now anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you told me your hours were like 4:30 to 4:30 to 10:30 or something like that.
Yeah. So right now I have to open the lab at 5, and I'm still living in Oxford. So, or this week it's been 4:30. I've had to open the lab so the first group can come in at 5, because the AETC people are actually doing their flying evals this week, so they got to be over on the other side of base by 7:30. So I'll take the data whenever I can get it, so they can come in at 5. So I'm usually the last couple of weeks it's been wake up at 2:45, up to base by 4:30, and then usually by 12:30, 1 o'clock I'm ready to fall asleep and go home. So so
I'm glad you're staying
up
awake
early.
For
part
this.
is not hard for me at this point.
Yeah. Well, you are, again, I get it. You have found ways to the time that you when you're in the college setting, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go do something else, and I'm gonna have all this time, and I'm gonna do what I want to do with that stuff, and you're doing it, which is cool. And still kind of keeping a hand in athletic training to do that type of stuff. So
I don't let my wife forget. I've had some opportunities to go move on to bigger D1 schools, and been asked to apply for jobs. And she's a teacher, and their retirement is pretty worth the wait, so to speak. So I've sacrificed my personal goals and careers for our family, and I make sure she remembers that.
No, I get that. I mean, that's the thing that but again, you can't get that family time back, and that's
no. And to be honest with you, like the time I spent in college athletics, and people always talk about it, but it's so true. The championships are great. It's fun to be on the winning teams, but the relationships are what you remember. And that's no different with where I'm at now, right? I really value the relationships that I made and are able to continue to maintain in college athletics along the way. And once I realized that I can still have that same satisfaction and sort of impact in a different way, it really has been a pretty satisfying and fulfilling, job here in the lab, working for the Air Force. And, when you think about college athletics and you get so narrowly focused on winning and losing, right? It's kind of tunnel vision when you step back, and now you're working for the military, and you're working with people on a daily basis who've been deployed and are telling you stories about what they've been through. Those college games that you were a part of that you thought were so cool, kind of are minuscule from the impact that these people are making, in the world, not just here at Wright Pat, but in the world. So it's kind of allows you to refocus and have a different perspective. But then again, like I said, it's still those same, even though I may give my wife a hard time about leaving those types of settings, it has been really rewarding and fulfilling to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, is that there's definitely life after college athletic training and working in the college setting and stuff. And there's stuff I still miss this year. The game day experience, the stuff that, some of the road trips going to Kent. No, I don't miss doing that. That was the thing in my interview that the AD asked me, he goes, now I want you to travel with football. Are you okay with that? And I go, what do you mean, travel to Shenandoah, Monroe Central, no overnight trips? Yeah, I'm good. I think I got that. Yeah. I'm good with that. I'm kind of in the middle of everything in our conference. So, it's easy for me to get from one place to the other. Sometimes I would do it on the way. I go to the school and see a couple of people, and then I would load up and I go to Shenandoah, which was on the way home. So, it's been good to know that there is a life out there after that, and you can still do stuff, and then you can still support your family. And believe me, not that college is, not that the college setting is bad. It's not. It's just, you kind of run your course through it, and there's some people that stay forever, and that's fine too. But,
I may be one of those people that goes back, right? Like life's cyclical, right? And my kids are getting closer to leaving. I tell you what, it was really hard not to apply for the Ball State basketball job after Michael Lewis, a fellow Jasper guy whose ankles I taped in high school, got that job.
That position's gonna be open, but too bad you're buying a house farther away.
I know. But, so I wouldn't say I'm going to close that door in another 6-7 years when my kids are all in college, or who knows, the right situation presents itself.
You can be the next Ralph Reef. That's what you can be. That's what you can be right there. I mean, look at Ralph.
I can't fill those shoes. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, and that's kind of the perspective I've taken, right? Like, it's where am I right now in my life, and where can I make an impact, but still be able to prioritize the things that are important to me. And this job has allowed me to do that, and that's why one of the reasons why I love it. And hopefully my kids will look back and appreciate that as they're older, and once they're doing what they're doing, and my priorities and responsibilities may change, right? And those doors may open again, who knows? But for right now, I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, absolutely. We talked about relationships, we talked about all this stuff. So I usually end this podcast on something like, if you have any advice to give some young athletic trainers, what would you give it to them? So even though I know that we've talked about some important stuff, I'll let you try to finish that up.
Yeah, I think for me, it all goes back to that, the art that goes into athletic training. You obviously have to know your stuff, but you got to be able to develop relationships, and you got to be able to communicate. And working on those two things are obviously, I think what sets good athletic trainers apart from great athletic trainers is their ability to communicate and develop and maintain those relationships. And I'm sure eventually you'll get to the point where, some of these people you've had relationships with, you may be now working with their sons or daughters, or, as your seniors graduate and move on. And that's only going to make life easier for you and more rewarding in terms of having those people come back. Took my son and some people from up here to a hockey game down in Cincy to watch two guys that played at Miami, 12 years ago, but still have those relationships with those guys to be able to do that. And they were more than happy to have us down to watch them. So again, that it just, relationships and communication, man. I think that's what life in general comes down to. And, whether that's your personal life relationships and being able to communicate, or your professional life, having those relationships and being able to communicate. Two big keys that I think any young athletic trainer should try to take to heart and try to improve on.
Yeah. I just posted about that on Facebook a couple weeks ago, because I went to Ohio State's women's gymnastics meets, which I never had a chance to go do, but the head coach, Meredith Pulsivic, is a former youth gymnast of mine. And it just so happened that another former gymnast that lived kind of in the Columbus area, her daughter's at Kent State, they were against Kent State. So I got to see both of them. But I said, that's the thing about it. If you learn the art of doing those things, you're going to have some lifelong friendships with some people that, of all places, Utah. Of all places that I connected with these two people in Utah that now are in Ohio, that I could go back and connect with and talk about things and not just reminisce, but just have a general connection conversation about life, because Meredith's got two daughters that are teenagers and stuff, and we were just kind of talking about, it's tough being a parent when your kid's a teenager, just like what we talked about before the podcast started. So it's cool to have those connections and relationships because of what you were with those student athletes, and develop those things. And you can still, you've had those common experiences together, but you can take it beyond that, and have a really fulfilling friendship with those folks, even though you may not see them a whole lot, because you had those connects when you were the athlete trainer, or they were student athletes or whatever. So, and that's what I kind of posted about, was like, don't take for granted the fact that you are going to make an impact on people that you may not see until a little bit further down the road with that. And we've all had those interactions stuff. So
100%.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up. You got to probably head back home so you can lay down and take a nap. Right?
Yeah. Getting about that time.
Yeah. So Jason, I appreciate you being on the podcast. And again, your story was really cool. And I think it's going to go over really well for everybody. So again, I appreciate you doing that. So
no problem. Thanks, Troy.
Yeah. We're going off the roll with Jason Eckerle.
That was a great podcast, and I want to thank Jason for coming on the podcast today. It was great to hear his story of how he got started in athletic training, his experiences at Ball State and in grad school, as well as his journey back to the Midwest, and then some great insights on what it's like to be a medical observer. I think that a lot of us think that they just sit up in the press box and kind of just watch a football game, and there's a lot more to it, especially in providing student athlete or athlete protection, oversight, healthcare, whatever you want to call it. And he does a great job with it. He's actually going to start working with the University of Cincinnati this next year, as well as a medical observer. So it's great to have those insights with that. Again, if you want to give us any feedback, you do so via email at offtherollpodcast@gmail.com. You can make some comments directly to me, to my Facebook page, or Twitter on we got Off the Roll Pod at twitter.com as well. Now we have a Twitter account. You can make some comments about the podcast there as well. I would love to hear your feedback and or any ideas on maybe who to have on here as a guest in the future. Like I said, I'm focusing on Ball State folks right now, but there's going to be a few more folks on here that are not Ball State alum, but has some great athletic training stories to tell as well. So hope everybody has a great day, and we'll talk to you later.